In the dark and bloody days after the death of King Saul, Israel stood divided. The nation trembled under uncertainty. Enemies surrounded the land. Brothers turned against brothers. And in the middle of the chaos stood one powerful man, a warrior feared across Israel, a commander whose loyalty shaped the destiny of a kingdom. His name was Abner. He was not a king. He wore no crown. Yet for a time he held the future of Israel in his hands. Abner was the cousin of Saul, the captain of Saul's army, and one of the most influential men in the nation. He fought beside Saul during Israel's greatest battles. He watched the rise of young David with suspicion, and after Saul's death, he became the driving force behind a bitter civil war. But Abner's story is more than war and politics. It is a story of pride, ambition, betrayal, and tragedy. A story that ended with blood on the floor of a city gate. Tonight, we uncover the rise and the shocking death of Abner. Long before David became king, Abner was already a legend in Israel. The Bible first introduces him as the commander of King Saul's army. He was the son of Ner, Saul's uncle, making him Saul's cousin. This family connection gave him enormous influence in the kingdom. Abner was not merely a soldier, he was a seasoned military strategist, strong, intelligent, fearless. Whenever Saul marched into battle against the Philistines, Abner stood beside him. And during these years, another young man began attracting attention across Israel. David, the shepherd boy who defeated Goliath. After David killed the giant, Saul became curious about him. He turned to Abner and asked, "Whose son is this young man?" Abner admitted he did not know. This moment seemed small, but it revealed something important. Even though Abner commanded the army, David's rise caught everyone by surprise. Soon, David became a mighty warrior. The people sang songs about him. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. Those words poisoned Saul's heart with jealousy. As Saul hunted David through the wilderness, Abner remained loyal to the king. Again and again, Abner pursued David. Again and again, David escaped. One night, David crept into Saul's camp while the king and his soldiers slept. David stole Saul's spear and water jug without harming him. Then, from a distant hilltop, David shouted toward the camp, and he called out directly to Abner. "Are you not a man? Who is like you in Israel? Why then have you not guarded your lord the king?" David rebuked Abner publicly for failing to protect Saul. The words cut deeply. Abner, the mighty commander of Israel, had been outmaneuvered by the very man Saul wanted dead. Yet even then, the conflict between David and Saul continued, and Abner remained firmly on Saul's side. Then came the terrible day at Mount Gilboa. The Philistines attacked Israel with overwhelming force. The battle turned into disaster. Israel's soldiers fled. Saul's sons were struck down, and among the dead was Jonathan, David's beloved friend. Finally, Saul himself was critically wounded. Rather than be captured, the king fell upon his own sword. The mighty kingdom collapsed in a single day. Fear spread across the land. The Philistines occupied cities. Israel mourned its king, and the throne stood empty. But while many panicked, Abner moved quickly. He still held military power. He still controlled much of the army, and he had no intention of surrendering the kingdom to David. In the days when David reigned in Hebron, a shadow of war stretched across the land. Abner, commander of Israel's armies, reached out in secret to the man who would be king. "I will gather all Israel to you," he promised David. "Together we will be one nation again." But David set a single condition. "First, return to me my wife Michal, daughter of Saul." And so it was done. Michal was brought back through the gates of Hebron, and beside her walked her husband, Paltiel, weeping as he followed. David would not be moved. Paltiel was sent home, alone, his tears falling like rain upon the road. Abner spoke to the elders of Israel. He persuaded them, one by one, until they stood with him. Then he journeyed to Hebron, where David welcomed him as a brother. A great feast was spread, and at that table, former enemies broke bread together, speaking of peace, of unity, of a kingdom reborn. "I will bring all Israel to you," Abner vowed again. David sent him away in peace. But Joab had returned from battle, and when he heard that Abner had been released, free, unharmed, his face burned with fury. "You do not know," he hissed to David, "that this man came only to deceive you, to learn your comings and goings, to betray you to your enemies." Joab sent messengers after Abner. They found him at the well of Sirah and brought him back. Abner walked through the gates of Hebron unsuspecting, still believing in the king's word. Then Joab took him aside. A blade, a single thrust. Abner fell. David's voice rang out in horror. "I am innocent of this thing. Before the Lord, I am innocent." But his words came too late. Abner was dead, a prince fallen by treachery. David turned his anger upon Joab with a curse. "May the blood of Abner fall upon the head of Joab and all his house forever." Yet the king could not touch the mighty Joab, not then. So David commanded all the people to mourn, and he walked behind the bier, weeping at the grave of Abner. His voice broke across the silence. "Should Abner die as a fool dies? Your hands were not bound, your feet were not fettered. You fell as one falls before wicked men." And all the people wept, for they saw the grief upon the king's face. They knew, every one of them knew, that David had desired no part of this death. That day, a prince and a great man had fallen in Israel. After Abner's death, Ish-bosheth lost all courage. The Bible says his hands became weak. Without Abner, he had no protection, no military strength, no authority. Soon afterward, two of his own captains assassinated him while he rested in his house. They cut off his head and brought it to David, expecting a reward. Instead, David executed them for murder. Step by step, David established justice in the kingdom. Finally, all the tribes of Israel came to Hebron and anointed David king over the entire nation. The long civil war ended. But Abner never lived to see it. Abner remains one of the most fascinating figures in the Old Testament. He was brave, powerful, intelligent, and deeply influential. He fought for Saul's house with fierce loyalty. He shaped the future of Israel after Saul's death, and in the end, he recognized that David was destined to rule. Yet Abner's life also reveals the tragedy of revenge and political conflict. One moment of vengeance destroyed a chance for peace. Joab's hatred silenced the very man who could have united the kingdom peacefully. Still, even in death, Abner's story left a mark on Israel forever. David called him a prince and a great man. And though Abner never wore a crown, his choices changed the course of a nation. His rise was mighty, his fall was sudden, and his death became one of the turning points in the story of King David.